They showed up looking like combat troops, black tactical vests, rifles slung tight, shiny HOA badges pinned to their chests like they meant something. My 12-year-old son was out front, kneeling on the pavement with a box of sidewalk chalk, sketching racetracks for his bike when they surrounded him and ordered him to comply. When they grabbed for him, they made one fatal mistake. They had no idea his uncle was a Navy SEAL. It was supposed to be a calm Saturday morning in the Lakeview subdivision. The sun had just crested the rooftops, pouring gold over the driveways, and Jake was bent over his chalk drawings, tongue pressed to his lip in concentration. For once, the neighborhood felt still. No barking dogs. No petty HOA warnings tucked into mailboxes. Just quiet. Then the knock came. 3 heavy blows rattled the front door. Not the friendly tap of a neighbor. This knock carried weight, authority. I opened the door and stopped cold. 4 men stood spaced out across my lawn, black tactical vests stamped with the words HOA enforcement. One held a clipboard like it was a warrant. Another had a handgun resting at his side. A third stood stiff and silent. The 4th wore a full mask and gripped an assault rifle like he expected a firefight. "What is this?" I demanded. The man with the clipboard touched his earpiece and spoke flatly. "Sir, is your son Jake Miller?" I nodded slowly. "Why?" "This property is under immediate compliance removal. Your son has 3 citations for vandalizing HOA property. He needs to come with us." Behind me, Jake stepped closer, chalk still in his hand, confusion all over his face. "Dad, what's happening?" The men tightened their circle. One reached for his arm. Something inside me snapped. "Take your hands off my son." I shouted, stepping between them. The masked one tilted his head, finger resting far too close to the trigger. "Sir, stand down. HOA order." I stared at him. The HOA doesn't carry rifles. The so-called leader gave a smug grin. "We're a special division. New regulations." That's when I saw it. The patch on his sleeve didn't match any local agency. The badge edges looked printed, not engraved. "Cheap. Wrong. You're not HOA," I growled. "You're trespassing." I pulled out my phone to dial 911, but one of them barked, "Put the phone down. You're obstructing enforcement." Jake's voice cracked. "Dad, are they taking me?" I knelt, pulling him tight against me. "No one's taking you anywhere. I promise." I dragged him inside, slammed the door, and locked it. Immediately, they started pounding harder, fists turning into kicks, voices shouting about forced entry. My hands shook as I grabbed the house phone. I didn't call the police. I called my brother, Logan, a retired Navy SEAL. He answered on the second ring. "Hey, what's wrong?" "They're trying to take Jake," I whispered. 4 guys in fake HOA gear. "They're outside." 2 seconds of silence. Then Logan's voice came through steady and ice cold. "Lock every door. Keep him inside. I'm on my way." The line went dead. Outside, the pounding intensified. The threats got louder. Then, faint at first but unmistakable, I heard it. The deep, rumbling growl of a motorcycle engine slicing through the suburban quiet like a war drum. "Logan." The kicks against the door shook the frame. Jake clung to me. "Dad, they're going to break in." I could hear radios crackling outside. Fake authority wrapped around real aggression. Then the motorcycle roared up the street. It wasn't just any bike. It was Logan's black custom machine, the engine snarling like thunder. The imposters turned toward the sound, their confidence flickering for the first time. The masked one lifted his rifle, scanning. Logan rolled to a stop in front of the house. Black leather jacket, combat boots, calm, unblinking eyes, the kind shaped by war and sharpened by survival. He dismounted slowly and drew his sidearm. "Step away from the house," he said, voice low but razor sharp. The fake leader laughed. "And who exactly are you?" Logan took 1 step closer. "The man you never should have tested." One of the imposters raised his rifle slightly. Big mistake. In less than a heartbeat, Logan moved, a blur of motion, a swift disarm I barely registered. The rifle clattered onto the pavement. The man howled, clutching his twisted wrist. From a window, Jake stared wide-eyed. "Is that Uncle Logan?" he whispered, a replacing fear. The others backed up, suddenly aware they were outmatched. Logan stood firm, weapon steady. "You think you can terrorize a kid?" he snapped. "Wrong house." The leader tried to recover. "You're interfering with HOA operations." Logan gave a thin smile. "You're not HOA. You're amateurs." He pulled a small device from his jacket, a tactical body cam already recording. "Smile," he said calmly. "You're being live-streamed to real law enforcement." Their radios buzzed nervously. "Sir, we should move," one muttered. The masked man didn't budge. "Negative. Finish it." He aimed his rifle toward Logan. Time slowed. Logan dropped behind a parked car and fired a warning shot into the pavement. The crack echoed through the subdivision. Sirens wailed in the distance. Real ones. Jake gripped my arm. "Daddy protecting us." Logan stepped into the street, commanding the scene like he'd never left a battlefield. The imposters retreated toward their SUV, panic creeping into every movement. "Drop the gear," Logan ordered, voice booming. "Leave the fake badges on the curb. Now." They hesitated, then complied. Moments later, police cruisers screech around the corner, lights flashing. Officers poured out, weapons drawn. Logan holstered his gun and muttered, "About time." The imposters were forced face down and cuffed. Jake bolted outside and threw himself into Logan's arms. "I knew you'd come." Logan ruffled his hair gently. "Nobody touches my family." Relief finally began to settle until one of the arrested men shouted from the pavement, "This isn't over. You don't even know who sent us." Logan turned slowly, eyes narrowing. "Then I'll find out." By evening, the fake HOA enforcers were in custody, but Logan wasn't celebrating. Something about it felt wrong. Too organized, too well-armed, too quiet. At the station, their fake IDs. The counterfeit IDs were seized immediately. Every single one matched. Perfectly printed, expertly laminated, disturbingly precise. Even the police captain admitted he'd rarely seen fakes crafted with that level of detail. Logan stood against the wall, arms folded, staring through the interrogation glass at the leader of the imposters. The man stared right back, a slow smirk stretching across his face. "You don't move like a small-time con," Logan muttered under his breath. "Who sent you?" The captain exhaled heavily. "They're silent. No fingerprints in any database. No prior records. It's like these guys just appeared out of thin air." That's when Logan's eyes caught something small on the edge of the desk, an abandoned HOA patch. He picked it up, turning it over in his hand. His expression darkened. Embedded inside the stitching was a tiny microchip. He pulled out his field tablet and scanned it. A signal pinged back almost instantly. The source traced to a private server registered under Lakeview Property Management, LLC, the very company overseeing our neighborhood HOA. "Unbelievable," Logan growled. "This wasn't random." He looked at me, jaw tight. "The HOA sent them." That night, we sat in my kitchen with the lights off and the blinds sealed tight. Jake was asleep upstairs, unaware of how deep this went. Logan spread documents and screenshots across the table. Digital contracts, falsified citations, encrypted directives. They built a shadow enforcement unit. Logan explained. Private contractors disguised as compliance officers. Their orders were simple. Intimidate, seize property, remove homeowners who resist. I swallowed hard. They went after my kid, Logan, my 12-year-old. He nodded grimly. That's exactly why they're going to regret it. He opened another file labeled Directive 14B. Target property removal, Phase 2A. Aerial images filled the screen. Multiple homes, including mine. They were preparing to declare your property abandoned. Logan said. Then transfer it to a shell company and auction it off. Organized theft. I muttered, fists tightening. So what's the move? Logan stood and slid a fresh magazine into his sidearm with calm precision. We hit their foundation, their files, their money, their public image. He glanced toward the dark window, eyes sharp. Tomorrow we visit their headquarters, and we bring the truth with us. I looked at him, the same man who once stormed hostile compounds overseas, now gearing up to dismantle the most corrupt HOA in the state. As I shut off the last light, I whispered into the dark. They picked the wrong family. Down the street, barely visible, a black SUV idled for a moment before rolling away slowly. Someone was still watching. By dawn, Logan was already moving, packing gear with the focus of mission briefing. I poured coffee, hands unsteady. You think they'll actually be there? I asked. They'll be there, he replied evenly. People who hide behind power never expect anyone to knock back. At 8 a.m., we pulled up in front of Lakeview Property Management, LLC. The building looked ordinary, glass walls, brushed steel, and a polished sign out front. But there was something sterile about it. Controlled. Logan clipped a compact camera to his shirt. This streams directly to the sheriff's department, he murmured. If they try anything, it goes public. We walked inside. The receptionist barely glanced up. Do you have an appointment? Logan placed one of the confiscated fake badges on her desk. Yeah, consider that our invitation. Security reacted fast. 2 suited men approached, hands drifting toward concealed weapons beneath their jackets. Logan moved like lightning. In seconds, both men were disarmed and flat on the floor. He pointed down the hallway. Director's office. End of the hall. We didn't wait. The door burst open. Inside sat a sharply dressed man, composed and unbothered, sipping coffee behind a polished desk. The nameplate read, Victor Hale, Regional HOA Director. Logan tossed the evidence folder onto his desk. These yours? Victor offered a thin smile. Independent contractors. Compliance sometimes requires pressure. Pressure? Logan slammed his palms onto the desk. You sent armed men to abduct a 12-year-old. Victor gave a slight shrug. Your nephew interfered with an acquisition. The board approved removal. Logan leaned in close. You signed Directive 14B. That makes you personally responsible for every crime they committed. Victor's composure faltered. His eyes flicked toward the doorway, where 2 real sheriff's deputies entered, weapons drawn, responding to the live stream Logan had transmitted. Victor Hale, one deputy announced. You're under arrest for conspiracy, impersonation of officers, and armed trespass. The handcuffs snapped shut. Logan finally released a slow breath. HOA's over, Vic. Relief flooded through me as I looked at my brother. You saved my son. He gave a faint smile. We just reminded them what real law looks like. Outside, Jake stood by the truck. The moment he saw Logan, he ran forward and hugged him tightly. Did they go to jail? Jake asked. Logan knelt down. Yeah, kiddo. And nobody's ever touching our home again. The sun broke through the clouds overhead as the sirens faded into the distance. For the first time in months, the neighborhood felt truly quiet. Not because the rules disappeared, but because someone finally stood up to the corruption behind them. Logan glanced back at the building one last time. Peace, he said softly, isn't free. Sometimes you have to fight for it, even in your own neighborhood. He climbed onto his motorcycle, revved the engine once, and rode off down the street. A soldier who had fought one more silent war, and won. And in Lakeview, truth finally stood taller than fear.